Hello, welcome back. We are now here for part 2 of Transform Desperation into Devotion. If you're watching this on the replay, please say hello in the comments as I will tune in and respond. And if you are here live, welcome, welcome. I'm so grateful to have you here. So, the first part of this conversation on transform desperation to devotion got cut short because at first you could not hear me. So we had to restart and then we had a minimal time. So today I want to actually complete that conversation. You can see the steam, there's steam rising from my cup of cacao right now. Sharing a cup of cacao with you, or maybe some tea, or maybe some water. But we are going to complete that conversation today. So, where we left off yesterday was piecing together the connection between bridging that state of desperation and actually transforming it and alchemizing it into devotion. And what does that feel like? How do you do that in your life? And I wanted to go into much more deeper examples in your life so that you can actually experience that. And I want it to feel a lot more tangible than how I left you in yesterday's call. So we're going to dive right in. And again, if you did not get to watch yesterday's call, Transform Desperation into Devotion, then just go ahead to my live videos. You can click back on that. If you're here, be live, stay connected to the energies, but you can piece together the rest of the conversation and the transmission in that other video. So let us dive in. Now, let's recap again the state of desperation. And then we're going to spend most of our time today on the energy of devotion. Okay. And so that you can really anchor this into your life and it can start to feel more embodied and honest for you, real for you, a true energy that you can tap into. Okay. So, desperation. Oftentimes, we get into a space of desperation because we feel out of control. We believe we don't have any power. We actually start to really identify as the victim in our life. And it's not that there aren't circumstances where you are the victim, because yes, there is definitely times where you are the victim in circumstances, but it's how long you are identifying with the victim identity, the victim archetype, because if you choose to identify with the victim, you are choosing to affirm that you do not have power and that you are powerless. Okay. And this is just not true. You do have power. You are not powerless. And even though the external circumstances feel out of your control, the external circumstances does not define you. What's happening in this material world is not meant to break you, confine you, because the truth of your soul, the truth of who you are, is eternal life. The truth of your soul is unconditional love. The truth of your soul is that you were literally always in tune and in oneness with God, with the divine source creator, and that you are limitless. You are unlimited creative potential and power. We've just forgotten this. And when we get in experiences that continue to give us evidence around being powerless, constricted, caged in, out of control, in a place of suffering, and we start to get into experiences that continue to affirm the lie that we believe, we genuinely start to feel even more out of control and desperate because it feels like there really is no way out. There is no movement. There is no freedom. There is no expansion. The shift isn't going to take place. Like that desperation is when it really feels like there's no other doorway that's going to open. And that brings us into a state of more deeper and deeper spiraling. And when we get into that state of spiraling, we enter into those like that, the deepest parts of our psyche, of our soul, where there is deep grooves of trauma, deep grooves of wounding. And I just want to mention that I am not outside of this. I'm speaking to this because I experience this, that as all humans, we get to these moments where we get humbled, like brought to our knees moments where the only pathway we can go is to the divine, is to greater devotion. And that's where I find where we can really bridge ourselves from desperation into devotion, because that really is some of the most darkest times you get into when you are in desperation. And so when you're in that moment of deep desperation, you tap in, like I was just saying, into these deep grooves within your psyche and in your soul, where there's a stored information of memories and patterns and perspectives and beliefs of limitation, of fears and worries. When you start getting into states of desperation, you actually start compounding fears that you didn't have for a long time, fears that you usually don't think about. You start thinking about worst possible outcomes that you normally don't think about, that you normally wouldn't even entertain or engage. But because you're in this context of desperation where it feels like there is no way out, you are completely powerless, you are a victim to life, those deep parts of your psyche and your emotional body and your soul start to become highlighted, those parts of you where you're still in separation consciousness. So in some way, there is a gift to entering into desperation, because you really start to see where, as I was saying in yesterday's call, where those holes in your faith are, where the holes in your trust is, where you're not actually believing in your power, where you do actually believe in your limited self. And we all have these limitations within ourselves. So we, in the state of desperation, we get to meet where our edge of trust is, where our edge of faith is. And then we get to ground into greater faith, trust, and conviction in that darkest time. Okay. And that's where devotion really starts to come in. So yesterday in the first call, part one of this, I asked you to think about where in your life you have felt this level of desperation, or you currently are feeling this level of desperation. And if you are here, say hello in the chat. I'd love to welcome you and say hi. But take a moment to really notice, where have you maybe even been on the edge of that desperation? Because the edge of the desperation is when we're kind of holding on. We're not really in that expansive state of dreaming, of potential, of visioning, of magnetism, of momentum, of trust and faith. It's more so, before we get into desperation, things outside of us are still okay enough, but inside, the fear is starting to percolate. The limitation is starting to percolate. So your internal state is already like preparing for the worst, but outside of you is still okay enough. And then when we really get into desperation, it's when the external world, the external environment actually is reflecting your internal lack and fear. And that's when it's like, you feel like you've now gathered evidence. What you believed is now true. And it's not the believing of potential, of possibility, of momentum. It's the belief around lack, limitation, fear. And I think what's also can be confronting is to realize how powerful you are, that your internal state can influence our external world. And that can be a really sobering moment as well, and can actually kind of tip the scale to feeling even more, getting even deeper into desperation because they're like, I can't, am I affecting my external world this much? Is my internal state, is my limitation going to continue to bring me into deeper limitation? And you can spiral even more. And I just want to make a note that if you're experiencing challenges in your life, it does not always mean that because you're experiencing challenges, you're in a limited, restricted experience inside your body. Sometimes challenges are just meant to come. They're a part of our soul growth. It doesn't have to mean anything about misalignment or not being in your power. I've had many moments of extreme challenges and have felt the most in alignment with myself possible. So if you're going through challenges, it does not mean directly that you're not in an aligned state. Like suffering and challenges is a part of life. But when we do get into a place where we're in that, hello, hi, Donna. So wonderful you're here. When we do get into those space of limitation within ourselves and start to see that limitation reflected outside of us, it can be really confronting. But then the other side of it is that is the same possibility for what we are creating, the potential light that we're creating when we can experience a feeling of peace in our body. It is going to be reflected in our external world. We're going to be an energetic match for that at some point. It creates almost like a wave, a ripple in our life, a wave of peace. If we can experience presence and joy and love in our internal space, we are just more of a match for it outside of us. This is just basic energetics. But there is this whole part of us, there's this conscious part of us, but a lot of times we're operating from this subconscious part of ourselves. And most of the time, the subconscious holds a lot of memories from the past, from this life and past lives. And so external circumstances will come into our life, people, situations, and challenges to help stir up what was in the subconscious, to help you actually see it, and so you can transform it. Okay, so there are moments when desperation comes as, like I was saying, as almost a gift, because the external circumstances begin to mirror what you feared the most. The external circumstances begin to mirror your limitations, your lack, and you get to see it, experience it becomes more tangible. And you get to actually see where you need to transform, what you need to alchemize, what fears you need to let go of, what belief patterns are no longer serving you. Okay. And this oftentimes comes right before a rebirth, a moment of transformation, of evolution and growth. Like when you start really committing to your spiritual path, it doesn't mean that when we start committing to our spiritual path, sometimes it's the greatest initiation start to take place. A profound purification of our soul, ourselves, and body starts to happen. And so it's very confronting, but desperation does not mean that you are on the wrong path. This is part of the human condition, but I want to share with you that there is a way to transform this and to not lose yourself to it. To know that you do not have to lose yourself to any thoughts, beliefs, ideas of lack of power, of lack of sovereignty. Okay, because you are truly sovereign. Sovereign means that no one and nothing has power over you. Because nothing can have power over your soul that you do not give permission to. And that you are literally one with the divine. You cannot be consumed, taken, dissolved. Like you You are eternally alive. And when you own that and trust that and understand that deeply, spiritually, and embody it, the deep woundings and traumas and experiences that we've had of victimization, of pain, of suffering, of lack, of limitation and fear, those things that are stored in our body, they actually begin to release on the spiritual plane. The deep stores, like storage of cellular memory of some of our deepest fears. So, for example, like when it comes to finances or money, people have in their cells, not just from this lifetime, but sometimes other lifetimes, of ancestral wounding, ancestral fear around poverty consciousness. And it's not just an idea, it's an actual memory in your body of poverty, and it operates you from a subconscious level. That's not your true divine blueprint, that's not your true and highest aligned self, but it's a part of you. And so when you come into attuning more to your sovereignty, that light of you that can never be dissolved, that is all of the divine qualities of love, of abundance, of light, of beauty, like that is your divine truth. When you start attuning to that, you start choosing to identify with your highest potential instead of the lower aspects of a traumatized self. Sovereignty all comes down to choice. It does not matter how challenging a past you've had. It does not get to dictate you. It does not need to control you. Your past does not get to create your future if you choose. And so when you attune to your sovereignty, you are able to spiritually, what happens on a spiritual level, on a soul level with your energy bodies, and on a cellular level, is that the trauma stored within you it almost like lifts up. It goes up into the higher realms. And I say up because that's kind of how you would perceive it, but we are one with the divine. So a part of us exists with the divine, with God. We are a part of the spiritual realms and the astral realms. We exist on all levels of existence. We just perceive ourselves and our consciousness existing in this human form, in this separated form right now. But we exist on all levels. So what you could perceive is that wounded part of you gets lifted into the spiritual realm where it is healed. And then you feel this deeper sense of wholeness. Not that the past gets erased, it's that it is no longer traumatizing you. It is no longer having power over you. It no longer dictates how you create your life. And so you transform your identities from any of those limitations, lack, and trauma, and you begin to create your life from a higher potential. You align with your higher self, your higher blueprint, and your sovereignty. You believe more in your unlimited potential than your limited self. And it's not just an idea, it's an actual feeling in the body. This is true healing. This is true alchemy within the body. And so desperation, when we get into states of desperation, is leading us to some of those darkest parts of ourselves that are wounded and traumatized, and that those feelings start to come back to the surface. And that's why desperation feels so intense. It feels so heavy, and it feels like you won't get out of it because it also feels so familiar. Those feelings of darkness, of sadness, of grief, of fear, of terror, scarcity, like it feels so real because it also feels familiar, because it's almost like you're remembering feelings you've had before, maybe not from this lifetime, but other lifetimes. The desperation is a very humbling experience. It really brings you to your knees. And when we get into that moment of desperation, that is when we then start to try to control. We respond to life from control, we respond to life from fear, we respond in a way that's not in alignment with our true sovereign power. Okay, so the moment we enter into desperation, first is to journal and really get to the root of what is stirring up for you. Okay. What is this desperation about? Is it about a relationship? Is it about a, about work? Is it about your mission? Is it about your life purpose? Is it about something from the past? A pain, a trauma, a wounding, an experience in the past? Is it about finances? What is that desperation about? And then you journal about it and you kind of go deeper into the layers of it. What is this actually stirring up? What is actually being brought to the surface here? What am I truly feeling in this moment? Because that's actually what wants to heal. That's what wants to transmute. That's what wants to be given voice and healing to. And so when you're in these moments of desperation, it's being really compassionate and kind and loving with yourself and not trying to force a healing, force something to move. It's about actually in a very empowering moment where you now get to look at where you have limited yourself, where you can transform that limitation and now become free, now actually re-identify with your empowered truth, your empowered identity. Okay. All right. So then once you can journal about that and just really get to the root of it, then you're going to you don't have to feel powerless to desperation and the limiting beliefs that are actually cycling through you. This is where we start working with the wisdom of devotion. Okay. So with devotion, just am pulling up my notes here. Okay. So when we start working with devotion, we are able to find our way immediately back to our power. Okay. Immediately. You can shift. It's like if desperation constricts the heart, devotion is what unlocks and beams the heart straight open. And when your heart is open, you can actually allow the wisdom of your heart to lead you. You can actually allow the guidance of the divine to speak through you. This is how we want to lead our life in alignment. This is how we want to expand ourselves and heal ourselves and grow ourselves, is with an open heart. Okay. And the more that we open ourselves to the divine, the more that actual healing can take place with the root cause of desperation. Right? So devotion is, and this is where I wanted to spend more time on day one, a part one of this, but we get to sit with this now. Okay. So devotion is this complete dissolution of the small self. So like the ego self. And instead of thinking about what you're not receiving, what you're not getting, how you're a victim, you literally shift your energy to, how can I be in service? How can I pour into this? And you're not pouring into something that drains you or depletes you. You pour into something that you care about. You pour into something that you love, You pour yourself into something that you it's already a part of you. It's already in oneness with you. And so you begin to shift from what's not working, how you're limited, how you're the victim, and you shift your energy into I care, I get to serve, I get to be a part of life. I get to create. Like, you step into the identity of the divine creator. You step into the identity of divine service, of compassion and love. That's our actual divine blueprint. And I'm going to talk about how this actually works, because I don't want you to think this is very different than giving yourself away in a way that you deplete yourself, people please, diminish your desires and needs. Devotion is, there's an energy to it. It needs to open the heart. It's not about the mind. You can't do devotion with the mind. Devotion only happens through the heart. Okay, but it is this deep communion and dissolution of self. And honestly, there's such a freedom in that when you realize you don't have to, the ego is just really fighting that part of you that wants to keep you in separation consciousness, that part of you that has misidentified with the human form. When you just allow that part of you, like, it's okay, calm down. We are eternal. We are eternally safe. We are going to get through this. It is good. It's fine. We're okay. Like, if we can really talk to that small self, that ego self, quiets down a little bit. The higher self part of you, the authentic self, that part of your soul that's always one with God, can come through, and you can start to be in devotion to this life, devotion to what's in front of you, to what you actually care about. That's an energy of opening and receiving that actually puts you in the feminine energetics of receiving, of surrender, of support. Like, you can actually receive in devotion. When you are in constriction and fear from desperation, you're closed off to divine support. As much as you may want it, you are closed off and not open to being guided and supported. You're not in faith, you're not in trust. But when you can get into the energy of devotion, truly tap into the feeling and experience of being devoted to something, that is when we open and allow the wisdom of God to move into our life. That is when the literal energetic frequency of our body transforms. It's when our mind can actually quiet enough and we can allow divine insight to come through. The cells of our body begin to relax, and instead of connecting into the codes of trauma, we can connect into the encodement of divinity just through devotion. And this has nothing to do with avoiding or disassociating or becoming numb. That is one reason why I absolutely love the bridge from desperation to devotion, because you cannot enter into devotion being disassociating and becoming numb. And what so often happens with people is when life gets so challenging and painful and hard, what they go into is disassociation and numbness, because a learned pattern from childhood or a very challenging life in early years where someone did not develop the capacity for emotional regulation and healing. In order to survive the level of challenges they've had, trauma and abuse, they needed to disassociate, become numb, which is a survival mechanism and very important and needed at that stage of their life. But as adults and as a sovereign woman, where we can actually realign our emotional states through our own individual sovereignty and mental strength, instead of becoming numb, what is so important is that we enter devotion. So when we get into deep states of desperation, instead of going numb, instead of disassociating, it is important that we go into devotion. Devotion requires you to stay online, to open the heart, to feel, to be in the consciousness of divine love. And that is a very, very powerful state to be in, where you can actually transmute and transform those lower consciousness states and consciously enter into your higher states of potential. And when you consciously enter into higher states of potential, it's not just a fluke. It's not like, whoa, just kind of got here and we're in a good state. No, it is very intentional. That is actual spiritual initiation. When you can consciously, without disassociating or become numb, transform lower vibrational states into like giving it up, surrendering it into the higher realms, the spiritual realms, and begin to exist more consciously in your higher self state, in your spiritual state, in the state of divine love. You have just initiated yourself into a higher level of consciousness. And from that state, you no longer fear that aspect of limitation that you transmuted. You're no longer running from it. You have faced it, transmuted it, and now entered into a higher consciousness. From that space, you now have the full power of your creative force to create, dream, and vision from that state. This is why devotion is so potent and powerful, is that you consciously rise, and then you have such a profound power to then dream and vision and expand from a higher potential. Okay, so devotion, let's break this down a little bit more with clear examples in your life. Okay, so when we think of relationships, so if we were, let's just actually start with God, because I do believe that one of the greatest experiences of devotion is to the divine, is to God. Now, I have a deep relationship with the feminine aspect of God. For me, the Divine Mother, Holy Mother Sophia, that is just what opens my heart. That has been how I've deepened my relationship with God over the years. So what's important is that you have a word, a feeling, a relationship with the divine God, source, creator, whatever word you use, that feels true and intimate to you. Okay. Now, when we get in challenging moments where it feels like God has abandoned you, or you feel disconnected from the divine, or you feel broken down, or you feel like you can't hear the voice of the divine, you can't feel the love of God, and you start spiraling, like you feel all alone and abandoned and not supported and not connected, and you start entering into that feeling of desperation, like you don't really know what's true. You don't even know if you're eternally saved. You don't even know if you're connected to God. Like these crises, if we feel disconnected from God, this is the moment that we enter devotion, saying no matter what, even if I can't feel that experience of God, even if I can't hear the voice of God, I will spend the rest of my life being devoted to the truth of who I really am, to the experience of unconditional love pouring through my body, to merging back with the source of where I came from. Like I will spend my whole life devoted to that. And it's like that devotion creates this commitment of higher potential. You begin to shift from I'm lost, I'm a victim, I'm not supported, to no matter what, I'm going to have trust and faith, and I will spend my life, I will devote my life to this love, to this breakthrough, to this communion, to this connection. Okay, and so it creates such a commitment. Instead of feeling powerless, you now shifted immediately into your power. You might not see immediate results in your external world, but that's where we need the staying power with devotion. Devotion is not just a fleeting thing, it is a lifetime commitment. But magic happens, truly, doors open. If you just envision, where would you rather be, in a state of sovereignty, choosing to devote yourself to a higher potential, or using your power to stay in a space of abandonment and wounding and victim? It's like, it's an easy, of course you're going to choose the power to say, I'm devoted to love. I'm devoted to this communion with the divine. I'm committed to it, devoted to experiencing it fully. And even if I'm not in this moment, I'm devoted to this. I'm devoted to God. Like, that's an empowering feeling. So devotion brings you right back into your power. Another example is in relationships. So, wow, this makes a lot of sense. I have a lot of financials that I've been allowing to discourage me. Yeah, we're gonna get into some financial stuff in a moment. I think this is, especially with finances, this is where so many people get into desperation, and so important to talk about. So when we get with in relationships, so relationships is like the perfect playing ground to, if we could call it that, to evolve ourselves, because everything is reflected back to us in relationships. And it is every wounding, karmic patterns, insecurities. It's just, love, like, it all comes up in relationships. And if there's a gift in it, but sometimes we can get in places in our relationships where it really is, it is a desperate moment. It is so challenging and difficult. And I just want to make a note, though, that some relationships are genuinely emotionally, psychologically, and physically abusive. What's more subtle is the emotional and psychological abuse. And if there is any level of abuse, that is not okay, ever. I don't think we should at all be devoted, devote ourselves to any level of abuse. So if you do experience a relationship where there is mental and psychological and physical abuse, that's just a boundary. Like, that's where you step away. And the devotion then becomes devoting yourself, devoting becoming devoted to your morals, to your values, to your worth, to unconditional love. Like, you become devoted to creating an environment where you are safe, where you are upheld in the values of love, of worthiness, of light. That's where your devotion comes in. Okay, because any level of abuse is absolutely unacceptable and not tolerable at all. Now, but there are relationships that there are moments where they get challenging, very, very challenging. And it almost feels like there's no connection, or there's a standstill, or there's fighting, there's like blockages, like you've just grown apart, like there's challenges. And we can either be in that spiraling of desperation around that relationship, friendship, family member, marriage, and we can either spiral, be the victim in it, and feel powerless to the situation, and begin to really sit in that feeling of like feeling desperate. Will this work out? Will we be reconnected again? Will we find peace with each other? Can this work? Should I just walk away? And a lot of times what happens when we get into desperation, you start to respond to a situation from your old patterns of trauma and wounding. So you either become more attached and clingy, or you disassociate and step away and don't want to work on it at all. Or you just say, well, you don't really want to work on it. You just walk away and don't do anything about it. So when we start getting into those feelings of desperation in any relationship, and again, this is if there is not abuse a part of it, when we get into this level of desperation, we can choose to say instead, I am devoted to the beauty of this relationship. And it's reminding yourself of why it is you care about this person, why it is you care about yourself, the values that you carry within that relationship, and why you are devoting yourself, your time and your energy to allowing love to bloom back in the space, allowing connection. And so instead of feeling powerless to the situation, your power comes from saying, I'm devoted to this. I'm devoted to this relationship. I'm devoted to you. I'm devoted to myself. And I'm devoted to us making this work together. I'm devoted to have, and just that frequency shift in your body. Instead of saying, I'm a victim, I'm being hurt here, you've activated all these wounds, you've bothered me here. It's saying there's things that need to be addressed, but I'm devoted to doing that with you. It shifts the whole energy. Okay. There's the level of commitment there, and love can enter, the heart can open. Okay. So, yes, now let's talk about finances. And a lot of times we get into moments of desperation with finances. Now, with money, this is so much of this has to do with your ancestral lineage and a lot of karmic patterns from other lifetimes if you're really stuck in poverty consciousness. And sometimes people create vows of poverty in other lifetimes. There's also a lot of dynamics in this world about the idea that the more money you make, the more like bad you are. The idea that money is, there's a lot of cultural and societal beliefs around money that also keep women, I notice, more primarily limited around finances. So there's a lot to work with in money and money beliefs, and this is where we can just really start to spiral, because it can feel like life or death. Like your body goes into like we're either surviving or not surviving. Like it's survival mode. All the fears start to come up around it. Also, there's shame and guilt involved around finances too. There's embarrassment. There's sadness and grief and feelings of failure. There's so much connected with the money wounds that we have. And it is very easy, once your external world starts reflecting those limited beliefs around finances within you, that you start to get really desperate. And it's like, how do I pull myself out of this? And instead, you just start lowering your standards on what's possible for you. You start just asking for scraps. You stop dreaming, envisioning, and accessing your magnetic potential, just because every cell in your body is like, just survive, just survive, just survive. But if you are existing in a survival frequency, that is what you're going to call in. And so desperation around finances just instantly spirals us deeper and deeper. So we got to bridge ourselves into devotion. How do we do that with finances? Okay, so if you like have your own business or your own work, for the women listening, entrepreneurs, it is about anchoring into being so devoted to the work that you came here to bring. Instead of focusing on what you don't have, on how to make the money work, on the limiting beliefs around it, around the scarcity mindset, it is shifting, transforming that immediately into, no matter what, I am devoted to this work. I am devoted to the light being birthed upon earth. I'm devoted to my gifts, reaching as many people as possible. I'm not turning away from this. It is absolute devotion into our mission and our work. If you're looking for a job or an opportunity or a different job, a better job or better pay, right? It's being devoted to being an open pathway for your gifts, to pouring into your gifts, knowing that you're here to offer some gift, some part of you, some talent, some expertise and wisdom, and being devoted to that gift of you in the world. And when you are in a space of giving, of offering, of being in devotion to your work and service, whatever it may be, whatever impact it may be, it is how energy works, that when you are in You give because you desire to give. You get to give, you get to outpour, you get to serve. And you keep your energy channels open for wealth. You get to receive because you get to receive. Like, these are separate channels. Oftentimes with finances, we think I have to do this in order to get this. It's very much like I move here and then finances will move here. And if finances aren't moving, you start thinking you have to move, like take a huge leap just to like meet scraps of money. But this is not how money works. It is not about doing more to get more. It's actually about just shifting your ability to receive more. It's just shifting your values, your level of self-worth, and realizing I get to receive because you get to receive. Like, you are worthy of so much wealth and support to flow into your life. It actually has nothing to do with your worth. And so when you just allow that, like, energy, like that communion and connection with money, instead of chasing it, trying to grasp it and force it and make something happen with money, which is what we do when we get into desperation around money. Instead of forcing it, trying to grasp it, going after it. It's the same thing we do when we get into desperation around God, not experiencing God, feeling God, hearing it. We start kind of grasp and like, why aren't you here? Why can't I hear you? Again, it's like we're grasping and going out. We don't have to grasp. We don't have to fight. We don't have to force. It's just about being in receivership. God's always with you. Money is always around you, flowing into it. Are you open to receiving it? And so the ability to get into the frequency of receiving, first we have to get out of desperation, because the desperation is that intense heaviness of fear. And so again, to get into the energy of receiving around money, devote your life to being in devotion. Devotion to waking up and being devoted to that day. Devotion to waking up and being devoted to those who are around you, those you care for, those you're in service to. Waking up and being devoted to the divine, to experiencing the divine in your life. Waking up and spending your day being devoted to how you get to share yourself in the world, the gift of your gifts, whatever you may be doing in whatever capacity of work you have, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you have your small business or big business. It's being in devotion to your light upon the earth. I don't care what field you are in. You are literally this diamond light of God shining upon earth. And that is a gift. The way you speak, your presence, your light, your gaze, your welcoming, your love, like that is a gift. And if you focus more on your devotion to life, your devotion to service, then what you don't have, you will just be in the frequency of abundance. You will be in the frequency of wealth. You will be able to receive so much more in your life. And I know this is not easy, because there are times where there's some deep fears that are coming up around finance. There's some deep fears around lack. So when you're in these, because we all have different moments of our life where we get to heal these deep wounds of trauma around finances and wealth and money. So if you're in a particular period where it's really in your face, do that work. Look at those beliefs around money, look at the fear, look at those limitations. And now in your back pocket, you know that looking at it won't make you spiral anymore. Looking at it means you get to give it to the divine. You get to allow it to process, to move what was in the unconscious into the conscious, and you get to choose differently. Instead of choosing those limitations, you get to choose devotion. Being in devotion to how it is you want to serve, how you want to pour into life, how you want to share your light upon the earth, what you get to give. Knowing that you receive because you get to receive. Money flows to you because you get, like, it has nothing to do with worthiness. It doesn't even have anything to do with talent. The way money flows into someone's life is just specifically in the encodement you have around wealth and your ability to receive it into your life. Okay. So you may be feeling desperate about a dream not working out, a vision that you have, a desire that you have, and it might not be happening on your timeline, feeling really desperate about it working out, needing it to be right now. Well, instead of being in desperation about that thing not working out, again, choosing a powerless state, you choose the empowered state, which is being in devotion to that essence of that dream, of that desire, of what it's bringing upon the earth, being in devotion to the joy, the light, the magnitude. It's like, what is that dream and vision bringing? Like, be in devotion to that. That puts you immediately into your state of power. Okay. Okay. So, devotion really is, it has nothing to do with disassociating from the issues at hand and the level of healing that needs to take place. I hope you can see that. It actually expands your state to say, I am processing, I am transforming, I am healing these states of limitation, and I trust, and I'm in faith, and I'm choosing my power. I'm choosing my potential. I'm choosing to open my heart to love. I'm choosing to be devoted, letting go of that story of my small self and all the limitation and the fears, and being devoted to that current of the divine. Devotion is a living prayer. It's not, letting go and giving up what you care about, what you've been dreaming about, what you desire so deeply. It's not about giving up at all. It's about shifting from desperation and force and control into devotion, faith, and trust. Okay. So this is the deep work. This is very deep work. And this is the essence of what we are working through within Reborn. It is this deep recalibration into a life. It's an identity shift, quite frankly. Why I created Reborn was because I had this vision for many years of working with the womb mysteries and mentorship specifically for the womb and the journey into the womb. And what would that feel like? What does that mean? What does that look like? What is the essence of it? It for many years was just percolating on the surface. And finally, at the end of last year, it came through, this journey of Reborn, the name, the womb energy around it. And the vision I was receiving was that not only are you going to, oftentimes we think of the womb, we connect with the womb to access our creative potential, right? To access the innate cosmic creative potential that is the source of all life. Like, this is the divine encodement of the womb. I'm in love with the womb. Like, she is an amazing, amazing organ, but also portal center. Just phenomenal what the womb, like, I just see across the earth women's wombs awakening with light, like lights being turned on in every woman's womb, and what that would do for women to know themselves, to be in their creative power. Like, what light would be birthed if all women on earth had their wombs awakened with light? And even if your womb was removed in some way, you still hold the encodement of your womb. And so I just kept receiving this message of what would it be like to awaken every single woman's womb of light. What would we birth on earth? What could we do with that? What would we dream of? What healing could ripple across the earth if we actually allowed our wombs, the light to turn back on? What could we literally bring from the field of infinite potentiality? What could we bring through our bodies, our intentions, our sacred visions, with a heart wide open and a womb in its power? What can we birth upon earth? Like, it's infinite, the beauty that we can bring to the earth. It is unlimited, the potential for love and joy and harmony that can come upon the earth with our wombs of light turned on. So I wanted to really set that intention to activate our wombs in such a way that the womb of light is turned on, like she's illuminated. And when our womb is illuminated with the light of the heavens, we are an energetic match to birth heaven on earth. So As I started creating this, I started seeing that this wasn't just about a recalibration of the womb. In order for that womb light to be turned on, we were going to need to rebirth ourselves. And I'm going to be rebirthing myself alongside this journey with all the other women in this space. It is going to be so powerful to be an energetic match for our womb of light, the womb of heaven to awaken. We have to rebirth ourselves to be the woman that can hold that level of light. And so as we rebirth ourselves held in this container of the Holy Mother's womb, there's going to be profound identity shifts taking place. All the ways that we've held limitations, stagnations, doubt, lack of worthiness, poverty consciousness, fear of expression, the fear of your own power, where you've had doubt around your gifts, where you let go of, the visions and dreams and beautiful desires you've had, where you've diminished conviction in your mission, where you've lowered your standards, your values, and dishonored your own boundaries, like any ways that you have limited yourself, it is going to be alchemized, transformed, and transmuted. Anything that's not in alignment for your womb of light to awaken, it's going to be transmuted. And on the other side of that is the full embodiment of your true self. You're going to be rebirthing into the higher embodiment of the sovereign woman, the higher embodiment of the woman that has a profound womb of light. And from that space, inevitably what's going to happen is that everything that you've been dreaming that's just been in that field of potentiality, the dreams, the desires, the visions, it just hasn't been able to come through because we haven't had a receptive body for it to come through. There's been doors closed and limitations and lack mentality and beliefs that it couldn't be done. But when that clears, the womb of light is on. Those things that are here that you care about, that you've been dreaming, that's just been in like the field of potentiality around you, can actually enter into the body, enter into your life, and be birthed through you. So you're rebirthing yourself, awakening your womb of light. And in that process, birthing your mission, your divine desires upon earth, whatever that may be. So this journey is going to be an 8-week journey. There's an opening ceremony, and then we start with, so there's 10 sessions. The first week is an opening ceremony. And then we start off with the first Grail Gate. There's 8 different Grail Gates. So we go on this energetic, archetypal embodiment journey of all of these different Grail Gates within the womb center. And so we're going to go deep into the womb, and we're going to end at the cosmic womb center. So we're touching all of these energetic touch points, anchoring in a new identity and activating your womb of light by the completion of this. And alongside that, you will be in this whole process of rebirth. And then you just become this energetic match for your divine desires to birth upon earth. So this is beginning on the equinox, the spring equinox. The 22nd is our first ceremony. It's a Sunday. There are payment plans for this, or you can pay in full. If you pay in full, you do get a private 90-minute womb healing session with me. And all of these details are on my page, divinemissionalchemy.com/reborn. It's also in the description of this video. So if you just click on the description, you can click on the link and learn more. But please feel free to send me a message about anything that's coming up around this mentorship. It is a space only for women. It's a beautiful, intimate group space and a profound journey. Now, it is run live because I love having the live energy, being with you live. You get the access is each week we have a live session, about 75 to 90 minutes. And then there is an online space. So it's a mentorship space. When you click into the mentorship space, there is included with each week the embodiment experiences. So we have the transmission, the alchemical experience live together. And then you go in to the online space and you have these very powerful, spiritually activated audio transmissions. They're overlaid with music, they're beautiful healing visualizations, and they're interwoven with holy fire Reiki so that you are receiving deep, profound healing throughout this journey. We also have a group Telegram space so that we're all connected together throughout the week. It's very intimate, beautiful space of women. I would absolutely love to have you on this journey. Again, if you have any details, feel free to put it in the chat, or excuse me, any questions, send me a message, an email, but go ahead and click the link to learn more about this. We begin very soon, about a week and a half, and I cannot wait to get started. This is the first time I'm ever actually running this mentorship. So this is really a real treat to be at this first iteration of Reborn. I am so excited to offer this only this womb space mentorship focused primarily on the womb. It's going to be such a beautiful journey. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope that you really got the essence of how to transform desperation into devotion. I hope you can start applying that into your life. I hope you know that you are more powerful than you know or believed yourself to be, and that there is always a more powerful consciousness to exist in. There's always a consciousness and perspective where you do not feel caged in. There's always a way to pivot and shift yourself and position yourself back into your divine blueprint. And from that space, magic happens. So much magic. Energy moves again. Thank you so much. All that you shared helped me so much. Oh, I'm so glad. You were such a blessing. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here with me. I'm sending you all so much love. Mwah. Have a beautiful evening.